Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are going to tackle a journey that so many of you are probably on right now, that big leap from being a university graduate to becoming a full-stack developer, someone that companies are really excited to hire. We're going to break down what that gap really is and, more importantly, how to cross it. So let's start with a feeling that might hit a little too close to home. You've done it. You've put in the years, you've got the degree in your hand, but then you look at the job market and it just feels intimidating. There's this huge crisis of confidence. So why does that happen? Well, think about this for a second. Over the course of your degree, you've probably written something like 200 exams. Yeah, 200. That's a huge number of times you've proven you can understand really complex ideas, all on paper. But here's the thing. There's a major disconnect between the world of academics and the corporate world. What you spent all that time preparing for isn't necessarily what they're looking for on day one. And you can really see that difference right here. On one side, you've got college, which is all about theory, memorizing facts, and, those classic pen and paper exams. But then on the other side, you have companies, and they want practical skills. They want to see you code live, right now, in these digital tests. So just imagine that feeling. You've spent 4 years getting ready for written tests, and then the very first hurdle to get a job is this timed online coding challenge on a platform you have never, ever seen before. It is a completely different game. So what's really going on in those early stages? Well, a lot of the time, it's not even a person looking at your application. Companies use these automated systems to scan thousands, literally thousands, of resumes for keywords. So at that point, you're not a person. You're just a line in a spreadsheet, one that can get filtered out in a split second. And this brings us to the absolute core of the problem. It's called the skill gap. It's that empty space between the amazing theoretical knowledge you got from college and the actual hands-on practical skills the tech industry is hiring for right now. This gap is the reason so many talented graduates feel like they're not ready. Okay, enough about the problem. Let's get into the solution. And it all starts with understanding the basic, fundamental way that almost every single major tech company you use every day actually works. First up, what even is a web application? Well, think about Amazon or Netflix. That software doesn't actually live on your laptop, right? It lives on some giant, powerful computer, what we call a server, somewhere else in the world. And you can get to it from anywhere just by using your web browser. So how does that all work? It's basically a simple 3-step dance. First, your computer, which is the client, sends out a request. That request zips across the internet to the company's server. Then, the server finds what you asked for and sends a response right back to you, which is what loads the web page on your screen. Simple as that. This whole process has a name. It's called the client-server architecture. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this is the absolute backbone of the entire modern internet. Getting this one concept is the first real, concrete step to closing that skill gap we talked about. All right, so if that's the basic layout, let's look at the actual blueprint for building these applications. This is what leads us to one of the most in-demand jobs in all of tech. What does it really take to build one of these things? Turns out, pretty much every web application out there is made of 3 main layers. You've got the front end, that's everything you actually see and click on. Then there's the back end, which is like the engine under the hood that makes everything work. And finally, the database, which is basically the application's memory, where all the information gets stored. And here is a fantastic way to think about that front-end part, the part you see. Just picture a human body. HTML, well, that's the skeleton. It gives the whole thing its structure. CSS is like the skin and the clothes. It gives it all its style. And then you have JavaScript. That's the brain. It's what makes everything move and react. So that brings us to the big question. What is a full-stack developer? Well, it's an engineer who gets it. They can work on all 3 of those layers. They can build the beautiful front end, they can architect the powerful back end, and they can manage the database. They can build the entire thing from the ground up. Okay, so let's tie this all together. Here's the most important part. How does becoming a full-stack developer actually fix that big problem we started with? So remember, the problem was that gap, right? The gap between classroom theory and what the industry actually needs. And the solution? It's not some secret. It's acquiring a real, practical skill set that lines up perfectly with what companies are hiring for. It's about going from just knowing things to being able to build things. And this is why full stack developers are so incredibly valuable right now. A company looks at a full stack developer and they don't just see one person. They see the value of a front end expert, a back end expert, and a database expert all rolled into one. It's just incredibly efficient, and it's why it's one of the hottest jobs in tech. So, that journey from feeling unprepared to being in demand, it's not a mystery. It's a blueprint. It's about understanding how the web really works and then learning the tools to build on it. And when you see it that way, that intimidating job market starts to look a whole lot more like an open field of opportunity.